Hello everyone, Ian here at NAB 2017. I have come over to the Sound Devices booth. A remarkable new recorder you have added. It's a big surprise when I saw this the other day on the announcement. Very, very excited about this new technology. Before we get into the specifics, I'm interested to hear quickly what your inspiration was for bringing this out on the market.
Well, you and I have had conversations over the years about your customers, and these are oftentimes smart camera operators, DPs, who are very knowledgeable about the camera side, and the audio side is something that they recognize is very important to their production, but they're not necessarily focused or concentrated on that. And they know that for bigger projects, they're going to hire somebody that's got a full-on field mixer, one of our 6 series or 7 series. But there's oftentimes applications where they want something that's no compromise, but simple. And really that's where the MixPre is just right on the mark. So what we've concentrated is having great inputs, great flexibility of control, but keeping it simple and kind of removing some of the tools and clarifying it for them so that it's just exactly what they need.
And you're offering 2 models. You're offering a 6-input model and you're offering the 3-input model, but with some variations on that theme.
Exactly, yeah. The numbering is probably the most confusing and interesting, but basically what we have are 2 models. The MixPre3 has 3 full mic line inputs on XLRs. And the MixPre6 has 4 full mic line inputs on XLRs. It also has an additional aux-in that you can come in on a 3.5 millimeter tip ring sleeve, and you can record those tracks. You can record up to 8 channels on a MixPre6, because you can record all those inputs plus your stereo left-right mix. On a MixPre3, you can record your inputs. You can also record your mix tracks. So that's for 5-track recording.
How are we storing our recordings?
The recordings are to SD cards. So there's a backside mounted SD card slot. It'll take class 10 cards. It's recording to polyphonic wave files. And with the MixPre3, you've got up to 96 kilohertz sampling, and on the MixPre6 you get up to 192 kilohertz sampling. So for those applications where you might have a sound designer wanting to do sound effects recording and slow it down and control it, you've got an uncompromised input for that.
I want to briefly look at the interface here, but before we do it, what is the weight?
These things are really lightweight. I don't know the exact weight, but it's about a pound or so. So these are extremely lightweight little boxes.
As far as the layout, you got with slightly different knob architecture than we're used to on 633 and things like that. How are these in terms of dust, moisture, things of that?
These are your typical sealed potentiometers. So field production is our heritage. Durable chassis is our heritage. These are die-cast aluminum chassis. This is high-quality display, Gorilla Glass screen. So this is the world that we live in, and we recognize our customers are oftentimes not so kind to our gear.
Right. I also noticed you have a very intuitive menu here. Really easy to go through, figure out where everything is. It's really lovely how it's very simple to navigate to where you need to go. And then, of course, your home screen gives you very straightforward, your meter levels, everything. All right, so here we are. We've got the, looking at the back of MixPre6. So let's talk about where media is and then talk about power.
Yeah. So first, the SD card is mounted on the back side. And again, this is anything like a class 10 card. Sound Devices has its own media, but any class 10 card is going to be acceptable for recording.
Okay, and I notice you have an Allen wrench here, so I'm really curious, what's that?
The Allen wrench allows you to tighten the 1/4-20 that's on the top side of the unit. So you punch through the chassis, or there's a hole through the chassis, so that you can mount this and tighten it onto the next device that you're attaching it to. So there's a 1/4-20 on the bottom as well as a 1/4-20 on the top.
Okay, and what power options do we have for this?
The unit comes with a 4 AA battery mount. Okay. There's also an accessory 8 AA battery mount, and there's also a accessory Sony L-type battery mount. With 4 AA nickel metal hydrides, you'll get about 2.5 hours runtime. double that with the 8, and then you could put obviously much larger cells here. You can put 2 of them, and those run in parallel for long run times. Additionally, you can also power off a USB, and that's how all these display units are running.
Fantastic. So we're looking at, from operator point of view, the right-hand side, and let's get a little rundown on inputs, outputs on this.
Because the product is so small, we've put the input connections on both sides. So on the left side, you have 2 XLR combo jacks on the MixPre6, and then 2 additional on the right side. The combo jacks allow you to connect XLRs and 1/4-inch tip ring sleeve connections, and you oftentimes will have 1/4-inch for keyboards or patch points or other analog sources, and obviously XLRs for your typically your microphone signals. The additional connections, you have a 3.5 millimeter aux in that can be used as a timecode input. So this week we've seen a range of these new very small timecode boxes. Those can be interfaced directly with the MixPre6 through that connection. Go into the menu selection, it'll see that, and then it'll derive timecode and stamp the files with that input.
Whoa.
Headphone output on the right panel as well as the controller, which allows you to control headphone levels and menu selections.
Okay.
Here on the left side, we've got our inputs 1 and 2 on the combo jacks. Those are combo XLR 1/4-inch jacks. We also have our stereo outputs. That's a 3.5 millimeter tip ring sleeve output. And then there's a USB-C connection and a USB-A connection. The USB-C connection is the interface for connecting to a computer, and there's 2 modes when it's connected to a computer. One is as a USB audio interface, so all of these inputs are available as audio sources to your computer, and audio return comes in over the USB as well. The USB-A connection allows you to connect a keyboard for metadata entry. So some of the things like its big brother, the 6 series, allows you to do to simplify, and especially when you're generating lots of different clips, you may want to make notations in them in terms of what the audio contains.
So the last question I wanted to bring up was the architecture of the preamps in here. Have you stuck with the tried and true, or are we looking at new stuff?
Our customers are always expecting great audio performance. And on the 6 series, the 7 series, our analog mixers, that's been our heritage. And we continue that with the MixPre. So these here are discrete component preamps with, on the analog side, you think about a preamp in A to D, the analog is more important than the A to D component of it, because you have to have a lot of clean gain. And if somebody's wanting to use a low output dynamic microphone, or their subject to microphone distance is really long, they're going to need a lot of gain. And these preamplifiers are incredibly clean, wide dynamic range with lots of good clean gain. They're also going into a 32-bit A to D converter. And if you think about A to D converters, a 24-bit A to D converter, theoretically has, this figure of dynamic range, but you never approach that theoretical. So a 32-bit part, the benefit of that is now we get much higher dynamic range. We could take advantage of that analog preamplifier, resulting in about 120 dB of dynamic range. So this is, for a little product like this, and actually for any preamplifier, that's really unprecedented.
All right, John, thanks so much for spending time with us. Fantastic little unit. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.